Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Julia. I'm a second year vet student at Virginia, Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. And today I'm so excited to finally create the video of how I studied for my various subjects during my first year of veterinary school. Today has been a little bit chaotic. I probably should have filmed this video earlier in the week. This morning we actually, Bridget and I, my roommate, we went out to the sheep barn on campus, and some people in our food animal practitioners club were like, hey, if anyone wants to help like trim some sheep hooves, like sign up, and like we're going out Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. And so like I raced downstairs and I'm like, Bridget, like you want to hang out with some sheep? So we hung out with some sheep this morning, flipped some sheep, trimmed their hooves, got them looking all clean and nice, and gave them a little bit of a pedicure, so that was fun. But yeah, so today I'm switching gears, and now as school is going to be starting up on Monday, I wanted to share some tips and tricks for how I studied for the various subjects presented to us during my first year of veterinary school. First and foremost, as a disclaimer, everyone studies slightly differently. Something may work for me that will not work for you, and vice versa. So take this as a suggestion and maybe like food for thought, but if something isn't working for you, don't be afraid to switch things up, because vet school is a little bit of trial and error when it comes to studying, and you also might need to kind of do some trial and error for how much you need to study. So I definitely recommend that you hear what I have to say, but also adapt it if needed to what works for you, especially, you know, your school might be slightly different than Virginia, Maryland, and so forth. So first and foremost, I started off vet school without an iPad. I had my computer and I was like, you know what? I don't need an iPad. So I was like, I'm not gonna get an iPad. Well, that was a mistake. So I started off my first semester. We have 2 classes a semester. So our first class is called the normal animal. So it's everything that is normal with an animal. So you learn the basic anatomy and physiology along with like breeds of the various different animals that we work with and that we learn throughout vet school. So that's kind of your introductory course to what is normal in an animal, hence normal animal. Then we switch gears, and our second course of the semester is called Dealing with Threats. And being as someone who is really interested in One Health and zoonotic diseases, dealing with threats was obviously a bit of a challenge because it was a lot of all of a sudden parasitology, bacteriology, virology, you know, everything that could possibly go wrong with an animal was loaded into this course. So it was definitely like a challenging course, but the way that I studied for that course was so much different than the way that I studied for the first course. Then even after that, our next semester, you know, we had moving, which was like, you know, anatomy and physiology, like to the core. Every single muscle, every single ligament, tendon, you know, vein, artery, bone of every animal. And then we had sensing and seeing, which was more neuro, and then optho, and so forth. So each class is very different, and also each school is very different, but each class is very different. So the way that you study for one class might be very different than the way that you study for another class. So just jumping right into things, I had my wonderful, gigantic whiteboard that I will link in the comment section below, but it was like 64 by 46 or something like that. That is way too big. It was not that big. Well, I still have it. I'm like looking at it, but my desk is a mess, so we're not turning the camera around. But I had my giant whiteboard, and I'll show some pictures here of some of the things that I did to draw things out on my whiteboard. I really liked having these big diagrams. I loved my whiteboard, but also keep in mind that I did not have my iPad in the beginning. So once I finally got my iPad, things shifted gears a little bit. Immediately, I started using an app called GoodNotes. So I imported all of our PowerPoints that were given to us by our professors into GoodNotes into separate files. So I had a file for parasitology, I had a file for virology, and so forth. Within each of those folders, I was able to create diagrams and study guides that corresponded with that subject area. So our classes at Virginia, Maryland are like mega courses with like multiple subject areas all mashed into one. So your one overarching topic of like, let's say, sensing and seeing is, the senses. But within each sense topic, you have sight, hearing, neuro, what could go wrong, and, glaucoma in the eye, and hearing problems, and then we had a whole lot of derm. So it's like, that was just one course. It's really good to focus on one subject area within the course, and each subject area is presented by a different professor. So for instance, we have like one professor for ophthalmology, and then one professor for neuro, and then one professor for dermatology. Actually, we had a few. But point is you do have different professors, and different professors present information in different ways. So you really want to break it down, and you want to kind of see what the learning objectives are that each professor is presenting. Some professors also had office hours where you could kind of go and be like, hey, what is up? I don't understand this. Break it down, understand that it is going to be a lot of information, but at the end of the day, it's really good to make sure that you have that solid foundation. So our first class, the normal animal, was the basic foundation that was incorporated in every single class following it. Each class goes into more depth of something that you have already learned prior. So you really want to get those basics down. In some of my whiteboard pictures, I showed how I broke it down with a lot of words. I was kind of in the beginning focusing a lot on rewriting the PowerPoints, rewriting my lectures. I felt as though I studied best. Oh my God, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I just sneezed. My nose is so itchy. I felt as though I studied best when I rewrote all of my notes, but it got to the point where that was like the least time efficient way of studying ever. It was so time consuming. I didn't even grasp all the information, and then all of a sudden I would run out of time, and the exam was, the next day, and I hadn't even gone through all of the lectures. I love my whiteboard. It was a good use of study materials before I got my iPad, but then once I got my iPad, that was really what helped to take off in the right direction my studying. The one thing I definitely would like to recommend to you guys is to actually learn the information the best way that you can. I talked this information out with my pod mates a lot. We had 4 people to a pod, and we bounced ideas off of each other. One of my pod mates created a practice exam. We would all take it, and we would talk the information out with each other if we didn't understand something, because as I've said in previous videos, people in vet school come in with different strengths and weaknesses. So your peers around you can really help you study something that you might struggle with compared to something that you might be stronger in that they might be weaker in. And you can really kind of merge ideas, help each other out, and that'll help you get that deep understanding of what the heck is actually going on, because you're not gonna just stop using the different information that you learn in anatomy. It's gonna literally be used in every single subject area that you learn after that. And same with, all the threats and stuff and dealing with threats. You may not be into One Health, you might not be into zoonotic diseases, whatever, but you need to know about deworming. You need to know about the different vaccines that we give all of the different animals that we treat. So this information is crucial information that is going to come up over and over and over again. And if you don't really learn it the first time, that can be okay, especially if you're just starting out and if you're just trying to adapt your study techniques and learn what works for you and what doesn't. But you will see the information multiple times. So if the next time you're learning about the femur, you actually need to know what is going on with the femur compared to just simply knowing, oh, this is a femur. You need to know all the different knobs and what muscles attach to it and so forth. So actually learn that stuff. Make those diagrams. Take pictures and label those pictures. You know, you want to actually have a physical understanding of what is happening in each of the different animals that we are studying to be able to transfer that information to different subject areas. So again, when we were learning about the eye and neuro and sensing and seeing, you know, you have the visual pathway, but you also have the physical anatomy of the eye, never mind the physical anatomy of the brain. And then from there, you can learn how glaucoma affects the anatomy of the eye and, you know, the different ways to treat that and what causes it. And everything is so connected. And if you can somehow make that connection to yourself with how everything comes together, it's going to be a little bit easier to understand the purpose of why I'm learning this, even if you might be a little bit more interested in how to treat something rather than how it's caused. So you need that big picture. You need to really ingrain in your mind how everything is connected. If the school doesn't present this information in these like mega courses, try to still make those connections yourself, because it's really important to know how one thing correlates with another thing, how the anatomy of both also correspond to how one causes another, how you treat it, you know, how you prevent it for the future, and so forth. I used charts a lot. I used charts for the things that were pure memorization. So, you know, the different types of viruses, what category those viruses were in, how you prevented those. So, you know, bacteria, like how you treated it, how you prevent it, how you diagnose it, the different types, what it looks like, and so forth. So it's super, super important to try different study methods. Charts worked out for me for those types of things. Diagrams worked out for me for anatomy and physiology. You know, draw things out, talk to your peers, write things out. You need to actually actively learn this stuff, because if you're simply just reading your notes, odds are, even if you remember it for the exam, you're not going to remember it down the road, a year, 2, 3 years down the road when you're trying to take the NAVLE. So I kind of briefly mentioned GoodNotes today. I do plan on doing another entire video on how I use GoodNotes, because there's a lot of really cool kind of tips that will help you become a little bit more efficient with taking notes and also with your study guides. So I will do an entire video on GoodNotes in the future, but this video was mostly just to give you guys an idea of how I approached studying for the different classes that we had at Virginia, Maryland. And this was just my first year. I'm sure my study techniques will adapt even more during my second year. Things that may have worked for me in my first year may not work for me in the second year. And that is something that is really important for you guys as well. Be flexible, be adaptable. If something doesn't work, try again. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up if something that worked all through undergrad doesn't work in vet school anymore. So I know this video was a little bit all over the place. I had a lot of things in my mind that I wanted to speak to you guys about with studying, but I know studying can be really crazy when you're entering a professional school setting. You don't know what to expect. Maybe you haven't been in school for a little while, or maybe you're watching this after trying to study one way and that not working and looking for other alternatives. So I hope that I have been of some help to you guys. As always, if you do have further follow-up questions, I am always available to answer those. Drop a comment below, find me on Instagram, DM me. I do really, really want to help you guys. But in the meantime, again, definitely drop a comment below. But like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. I am really a little bit concerned about when school starts keeping up with the weekly videos, but I do still hope to come out with videos every Wednesday. I hope to manage my time and not film them the day of, but they are all of a sudden doing lawn care outside. But I do really hope to keep up these weekly videos on Wednesdays. So subscribe, stay tuned, get notifications for the next time that I post a video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys!